hello, and welcome to this week's edition of From Me to We with Pastor and First G. I am First Gentleman Damion Parks Weekly, and this is my husband, Pastor Romell Parks Weekly. So we've been missing you guys for a couple of weeks, and you've been missing us. We thank everyone for the emails and Facebook messages that we've gotten saying, "Oh, did I miss an episode?" or what happened? So I'll just say that life happens. It's a busy period for us.
Yeah, end of March, beginning of February is kind of like a busy period. My birthday is at the end of March, and then we come right after that into resurrection season. So just had a couple of things going on, but we appreciate you all's patience as well as just knowing that you all are watching and that you're hungry for it. So Absolutely. We're really excited about that.
Yeah, good. So ditto to that. So I am glad to say that there's those of you out there who really are. I would say learning or getting something from us and really appreciate what we're doing. So it's nice to hear that.
Absolutely.
And you kind of want to hear it on a regular basis because you want to make sure, make sure that what you're doing is right and good and that it's actually reaching people. So thank you. So we're back. So this week's topic is actually titled The Wholesome Threesome. So people are like, well, how can a threesome be wholesome? So
there are ways.
There are ways. Actually, in this case, there's only one way. So our wholesome threesome, obviously, being a ministry couple, being spiritually minded, being Christians, Christ-like, God-fearing, God has got to be in your relationship. And there's just no way around it. He should be in it. He needs to be in it. And that needs to be your third party.
Absolutely. I have to tease my husband for just a minute. He said, so before we started recording, he said, I don't want it to come out too churchy. And then the first thing he said is God-fearing. I'm like, you guys would say, I'm glad to be in the service of the Lord one more time. But right, give honor to God who's the head of my life. To the pastor in his absence from the pulpit. Right. Okay, so anyway, but yeah, it is important. When we talk about having God in your life, what we're saying really is he needs to play an everyday role. It's not just like, so often we have God in the periphery of our lives. He's like way out on the side. Yeah. And we only turn that direction when we need something. Mm-hmm. When the relationship hits the rocks or when I lost my job or whatever the case is. But we want to make God a third person. You don't have, or you should not have, the person that you're in a relationship with on the periphery. Right. So if God is one of the persons in the relationship, he shouldn't be either.
Absolutely. We don't want to be uber spiritual about it or just a little bit over the top about it, but he's got to be a priority in a relationship just like the other person.
Absolutely.
And so you want that other person to, in turn, feel the same way about it. So, it's a little difficult in how people try to be in a relationship or start a dating scenario with someone who is non-Christian or someone who is, where Christ is not a priority or their spiritual life is not a priority for them. So as a Christian as most of the people, I guess, people that watch us, we just assume that, you are at that point where you are that Christian. How do you date someone like that? How do you try to pursue a relationship with someone? Now, granted, all of our spiritual levels of where we are in our spiritual lives are different, but it shouldn't be, well, I'm going to say it shouldn't be, but you want to be with someone where the spiritual life is a priority. So it's
Absolutely.
And you don't want to lose that. Your faith is important, so there should be too. And we don't want to go into... it sounds churchy again, but the whole term of being unequally yoked, it really is, it's a reality.
People look at that passage as though it's like, that's just another one of the rules or one of the laws. Listen, the word of God, when it's rightly interpreted and rightly applied, it's not a book of laws, it's a book of, I want to show you how to live the best life you can.
Absolutely.
So this is counsel. I consider it godly counsel, not a rigid rule.
Right.
He's counseling you that say, hey, if your faith is supposed to be one of the most important things in your life, if not the most important, because we're talking about your relationship with God here. Right. If that's the most important thing in your life, how can you not share that with the most important person in your life?
Absolutely.
It's like, so to have this major part of who I am isolated from how I relate to my husband, for me, that just couldn't work. And if it could work, I'd want to ask my own self, where are my priorities when it comes to faith? You know, because I just think that where I am, even if I wasn't a pastor, you know, where Damion is, whatever the case is, I would either drive him crazy or he would drive me crazy. But one of us are going to be crazy because this major, big elephant, we might call it, we kind of keep dancing around it. Or you have your thing, I have my thing. This is not like Republican, Democrat. This is a big freaking deal.
So even if, and that's in a relationship already, even as a single person, when you first meet someone and you're pursuing a dating scenario, I'm not going to even say a relationship, because when you're single and you first meet someone, it shouldn't be pursuing a relationship right away. We just want to, the first challenge is getting to know you. So, you know, the sad part of that is that a greater majority of us, even though we don't want to admit it, we tend to leave God off to the side when we first meet someone.
We do.
Because it, you know, I don't want to come off too churchy, or I don't want to seem like I'm hyper spiritual or anything like that. And that's true. You don't want to be over the top.
We're not saying, you know, stop the date and start having Bible study.
Exactly.
We're not saying that.
We're not saying that at all. But at the same time, you do want the other individual to know that, hey, my spiritual life is a priority for me. It is important. You know, where are you in this? You know.
And let me just say this. We don't want to come across too spiritual, and then even when we're dating somebody else, we don't want to come across too spiritual to the other person. But at the same time, you don't mind asking about whether they top or bottom. You don't mind asking about, you know, how they get down, but you can't bring up God. So clearly there are no boundaries. So
why is
get our priorities right? You know, exactly.
So why would your spiritual life be a limitation if I can find out what you do in bed on the first day that we meet? You know, then come on now. So that excellent point, especially in our community, because you know that's unfortunately that's the top priority. But you know, it's like almost saying how I can share the most physical, intimate part of you, but I can't share the spiritual side. And I, you know, we've all been there before. I think if we be totally honest about it. But if you think about it, that just does not work. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again when it comes to that, and leaving God out of the equation for that. When I finally made the decision before I met him, for me personally, and realized like, okay, God, I got to take you with me everywhere. I just can't put you off to the shelf, because I realized that I was putting him on a little shelf somewhere when I would meet someone, and then I poured everything I had into trying to make the dating scenario work, and that didn't work. It just didn't work out, and it's not going to work out. So we've got to keep him into that, keep him in the mode, consult him, not just when things are going negative or bad, but consult him, you know, throughout the whole process. Okay, God, it's going good now, you know, keep guiding me. And, you know, and it has no choice but to work out that way. So.
And the rich part about that is when you're with someone and you all are on the same page, now every human being is at a different stage of their journey. We're not saying, I got to find somebody on my level. We're not saying that. We're just saying to have the same priorities.
Absolutely.
And when you have that, and you can share, because again, it's an important part of your existence, and you can share that with somebody. I mean, you're talking about being able to pray together, being able to encourage one another. You know, if my faith is weak, he can help build my faith. If his faith is weak, I can help hold him up.
Absolutely.
We can share in this journey. You know, there's a passage in I think 1 Thessalonians that talks about in chapter 5 that talks about us being spirit, soul, and body. We share the soul, the emotional part. We share the body, the physical part. But why can't we share the spirit?
Absolutely.
And then that's how you really become one. You think that the only way you become one is one. No, that's one flesh. That's the one body part. But we still want to become one soul. The Bible talks about how David's soul, Jonathan's soul was knit to David. So their soul was connected. They had a soul tie, not just a body tie. And I want to have a spirit, soul, and body tie. I have a spirit, soul, and body tie. But that's like the apex. It won't make the relationship perfect. But it will give you such a leg up and such a strong, not just foundation. it's like, to me, it's the decor inside the house. It makes it beautiful.
It does. It helps the trust factor as well. I've never been like an untrusting person, but I think when our spiritual lives met together, when they did, before we got to anything physical or body-wise or what have you, I think when we met spiritually and had that understanding, it's like you said, it made the rest just that much more important. But the trust factor for me increased even more so, because I'm like, this man has just shared something with me that, you just don't get every day. We need to, but he shared that part of it with me, so that just made everything else just like, okay, here I am. So and so many of us out there are just so untrusting, and we're always sleeping with one eye open and looking over our shoulders at the person that you're trying to get to know and you're trying to build a dating scenario and a relationship with, but you don't trust them. What better way than to get to know them spiritually, and that will help them to be that much more into you into them. There's so many things, and I think the thing that I love the most about our dating when we first started dating was that every single night until I moved here to St. Louis, we prayed together no matter what. There were, 7 days a week, no matter whether I was out of town somewhere else or not. We call on the phone and we would talk, but the thing that we made sure to do was to pray. And we didn't put it all on one person to pray. We took turns, and we spoke together about things that were concerns of ours, or people that we wanted to pray for, or situations, and we in turn at the same time prayed daily. Okay, God, we want to make sure that you're the center of this situation, with whatever you'll have happen, that you remain the center. And I think that was just that little part alone, I think, made the whole, I'm kind of trying to get emotional right now. But that really just made the center of our relationship, and he is the center of our relationship.
Absolutely.
It's, again, like he said, it's not that we don't have our issues and our problems, but I think that they would be so much harder to handle had it not been for our spiritual life together.
And it's, that example of praying together.
Sure.
You can study the Bible together. Maybe, the sermon from last Sunday, you all can study it together. If you all worship together, you can have, you study the same sermon. If you don't worship together, you all can both bring in the message that you got this past Sunday from your respective churches and go into it together. You can fast together and encourage one another while you're hungry. It's all types of these spiritual things that you can just share. It really is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, and again, it strengthens your foundation, but it also helps to give direction and stability.
Absolutely.
To the relationship.
Absolutely. So let's go. Wow, that was good. So again, Wholesome Threesome. We encourage you to, in your dating situation, in your current relationships, in your current marriages, make sure that God is at the center of all of that. He should be the one in the middle. He should be the one that you all are sharing.
Absolutely.
In the spiritual realm of things, that, he's the one that you partake of together. So, anything else?
Well, it's funny you said ask that, because I was just sitting here thinking, when measuring somebody out, a potential partner, you're dating, you're getting to know each other, and one of the things you do want to get to know about is their spiritual life. Pay more attention to observation than to conversation, because people can say a lot, and especially if they observe something in you, they'll tell you what they think you want to hear, and you can like, that's not who you told me you were. Right. That's because you paid more attention to this than this. Yeah. Okay, so watch their spiritual life. Yeah. See, how do they ever crack their Bible open? Do they ever talk about God? Do they ever mention him when they're struggling with something? Do they ever ask you to pray for them about something? Whatever the case is. And again, we're not saying to be spiritually arrogant or anything like that, but this stuff matters. That's the bottom line. It matters.
Absolutely. But we don't want you to be looking out of the corner of your eye at everything that's done. So don't look for the negatives. Look for the positives and feed off of those positives and work off of those positives. So.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us this week. We are glad to be back, and we hope to see you on next week. for our next topic. Continue to send your emails and your messages, your topic suggestions, and things of that nature. And you can find us at
www.judahfirst.org. Also on Facebook at facebook.com/JudahFirstMinistries, as well as youtube.com/JudahFirstMinistries. And those questions or comments that he was mentioning earlier, you can email them to frommetowwe@judahfirst.org.
Thank you, and we will see you next week.
See you next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, and we will see you next week.
See you next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Woo woo!
You should have said guys.
Guys and gals, dolls and dames, homosexuals and lesbianites.
Lesbians.